Okay, I gave you the question as like this. I gave you this question, right? And this problem. And sorry. You came up with some answer. So, but this is a basic pattern problem. This is a pattern problem and the basic one. So here you can see that I have given that n being denoting the number of rows, and that n can range to any natural number. Basically it can start from 1 2 3 and so on. So this is your constraints. So for example, if I want to understand this pattern, I have to go from the beginning, the minimum number that can be formed as a pattern. So the minimum number in the set of natural number is 1. So I took that n as some number, and here you can see that for n is equal to 1 I have 1. From this you are unable to understand what is the pattern, I am trying to tell you to print on the screen. So you moved on to n is equal to n being 2, the variable being 2, and you now are finding some pattern. And first thing you observed is whatever the n value I have given as the same number of rows, number 1, number 2. Observation 1 being n being number of rows and same number is being printed. Like if you have n as 2, you are printing 2 for all the 2 rows. Now first observation is done. Now when you see the pattern for n is for 3, so now the first observation was n as number of rows and the same number is being printed in each row, we can say. Now here you found the number of rows being printed and the same number is being printed in all the rows. This is row 1 and this is row 2 and this is row 3, and this 3 is matching with whatever the input you have given here. And one more thing you have observed by this now is the number of columns is also equal to the number of rows. Number of columns is equal to number of rows. Observation. So for this observation 2, now we found that number of rows was equal to number of columns, and in each row and column same number is to be printed. Right? So in order to understand whether we have understood it correctly or not, let's just take some example of n equal to 4 and check. So for n is equal to 4, I have given n as value 4, means according to our observation 1, it should be having number of rows and same number is being printed in each row. So there should be 4 rows. Let's just check. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, the 4 rows are being printed, and same number is to be printed. Same number is to be printed in each. Okay, this is number 4 and same number is printed in each row. And observation 2 says that number of rows is equal to number of columns. Let's just check. So here number of rows was 4. So check with number of columns, that is 1 and 2 and 3 and this is 4. Okay, number of columns was 4. Now both observations are also met in this pattern. Now we are in a position that whatever the pattern they have given, I have understood the pattern very well. And each row and column should have same number. Yeah, each column and row is having same number. So in order to just you have just understood what is the pattern saying about. So to concrete this example very well, let's just take a I'm erasing it this now. So let's check for what is happening for n is for 5. So first observation I have made is for whatever the value of n, those many rows we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and same number is to be printed in each row. And the second thing is we found that number of rows should be equal to number of columns, and here it is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Column is only 1, so we will extend it to 3, 4, 5 and we will fill all the values. We will fill all the values. Okay, so now I am in a good position to say that I have understood the pattern. Let's now use the thinking process of what we have just understood to convert this into a program. From thinking to convert this into a program. How can we do that? For writing any program, for that matter, one thing you have to understand is you should know some tools that programming language is offering, right? For example, the programming languages have the concepts of variables and what else we have, print to printf to print on the screen, scanf to scan on the screen, if else, switch, while, for, do while, functions and so on. These are some of the things that I am able to recall it from my previous knowledge, whatever I have studied in the programming languages course, and by using these tools I am going to write a executable program. So let's just see what are the tools we can use over here in this problem. To understand it, the first and foremost thing we have to observe is what are the how as a human being, forget about the thing of programming language. As a human being, how we are thinking, how we are thinking whenever you have given this problem statement and asking you to find the pattern, the first thing we understood is n being representing the number of rows. So somewhere in your mind you have stored this information as this n being the number of rows. So somewhere in your memory you have stored this information, and also n being any natural number. Now when you see this pattern, what is the first thing you have to understand? What is the value of n? Again, somewhere in your memory, for this information you are saying this n is 1. Now from this you understood that number of rows should be 1, so you have written 1 by using your hand. This brain signal goes to your hand and you wrote it as 1. Okay, you wrote this as 1. Now if you come next, your brain cell somewhere over here, you have stored that this is n having representing number of rows, and when you come here it is saying it is 2. Immediately, based upon the understanding of this line, your mind is just giving you your hand the signal as okay, the number of rows is 2 and the number of columns is also 2, and I have to write the same number. So likewise, if you understand how your brain is functioning, the first thing it is understanding is what is the number, right? What is the number? How it is extracting the information as what is the number? By using some memory location where that n has been stored. To imitate this storage into your computer, there is also a memory in your computer. So we have to tell my computer that see, there is something called n and I have to remember this, because computers are not smart. If you tell them see n is n number of rows, it cannot hear it, right, and understand. It is just a machine. We have to tell it very explicitly that see, n is nothing but a memory location that I am using for the future use, and I will store something over here. If you have a memory cell, that is why it is used to store some information, right? Here in my brain cell, if you call this as a brain cell, I stored that n being number of rows as 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. So we have to have some memory cell which we can rewrite or override. For this concept, this concept in computer programming language is called variables. And how to declare the variable, I hope you know that by using some syntax like what is the data type of this variable and followed by some name, any name of your choice, and followed by semicolon, right? So here n being number of rows and any natural number, into your mind your previous knowledge says that any natural number starts with n greater than or equal to 1, right? This information has already stored in your brain from your previous knowledge, but this computer doesn't know what is n, what is natural number, what is integer. It is just a machine, it is a dumb machine sitting over here. It will do whatever you want to do step by step. No, so that is the reason why we have this concept of data types. So there are many data types like int, float, char, double, and I hope you know what are the uses of this. And among these I found that integer is being a perfect match for holding this variable value. Of course you can give any preference of your name, but here I am giving it as int, and I give a good name to understand that as a rows. So this is the first thing I understood. Number one tool number one, this is I'm going to use it. And what might be the second one? Second one is just printing. You are just printing, right? Here you are just printing the values, right? Okay, some color. You are just printing the numbers. To print these numbers, we are understanding that from this memory location that is stored in your brain and converting back into your signal, and your hand will write it as 1. It will understand what is the value over here and it will translate it to a writable form with the help of your hand. So there is a smart signals that is passing from your brain to your hand, but your computer doesn't have any hand, nose, right? It just have a printing screen. And how you can print the screen? By using printf. So tool number 2 we can use currently is printf. Let's just try to simulate this thought process by using these two tools to come up with this logic, and let's just do that. So for n is equal to 1, I want 1, n is equal to 2, I want 2, and first thing I will do is I will declare some variable as rows, and I will assign it to 1. And it is simple. If I write printf %d rows, it will print 1 on our output screen. So if you want to print this pattern, what you will do? Again you will write rows equals to printf %d rows. So this will print 2. Again you want 3 more 2's, right? 3 more 2's. What you will do? Printf %d rows. Again it will print 2 over here. And now your brain thought process is very strong. You know that after this 2 being printed, you have to come to the next line and print again those 2 2's. right? How can you come to next line? By using slash n. Correct. First you have to come to next line, then you have to print. So the first thing I will do is slash n, and again I will write rows. Now what this line will do, this line will come, this line will come to here, the cursor will pointing over here, your cursor, and this line will write to. Again your cursor is here, next %ld rows, and this writes again to here. So now for n is equal to 2 we have done. For n equal to 3, whatever I write, we have to print this pattern. What I do the same thing. I do this same thing. Copy, paste, resize, and instead of this 2, I will make it as 3. I will make it as 3, and from this we are printing 3, from this we are printing 3, from this we are coming. Oh no, this doesn't work, sorry, we have to remove this line. Oh, okay, I have to write again, it doesn't work, that's okay. Printf, like, okay.